Hello everyone, welcome to the What If Anime YouTube channel. Today, we are diving into an exciting new story that will take your imagination to the next level. Let's get started. What if Naruto's heartbreak made him Konoha's deadliest ANBU? If you enjoyed, then please like, share and do comments. And also check the description box to original creator of this beautiful creation. This couldn't take any longer. He wanted this to be over with. He wanted to go home, eat a tub of ice cream, and cry himself to sleep. But Naruto Uzumaki wouldn't. He had to stick to his guns. Never give up, never back down, don't run away. His Nindo was his life. I do. The words rang in his head, repeating like a mantra. The words shattered his heart, yet the smile she was gracing him with taped the broken pieces together like a child would fix a toy. Broken, that's what he was. He has a sinking feeling, ever since the war began and ended 2 years ago, that this would happen. Sakura Haruno would never choose him. Not him, never him. That night, I guess it really was nothing to her. You may now kiss the bride. Their lips connected, and Naruto forced himself to look away. He could already feel the tears welling up in his dull, cerulean orbs. But he wouldn't let them fall. This was her wedding day, the beginning of her own happiness. And, selfishly, the end of his own. Speech, speech, speech. The crowd called to him. Oh, that's right, I'm the fucking best man. Staple your sack together, kid. You can do this. Then we can go to the training grounds, miles away from this damn village, and blow each other up. How does that sound? Kurama said from within his mind. Their mental link was strong, and it was because of their bond as comrades and friends that they could maintain it. Though Naruto still wasn't fond with the brunt cursing and terminology the demon fox had picked up over the years. Alright, Kurama, but don't think you're going easy on me. I feel like dying right now. Wouldn't have it any other way. Naruto shakily walked up to the microphone, avoiding everyone's gazes. A few knew of his true feelings, and they felt a pang of hopelessness in their hearts, mirrored by Naruto's own. He was wearing a dark blue tuxedo that complemented his eyes. His hair, now longer, drooped onto his forehead, caressing his eyebrows. He cleared his throat and began the speech. His voice cracked a few times as he went over their genin days. He just about burst into tears when he talked about Sakura's feelings towards the Uchiha even then, and after skipping over the war and Sasuke's betrayal, talked about their relationship. The relationship he should have had. No, I was never in the picture. After finishing with a ramen analogy, and how even in the coldest of bowls you can still find the delicious flavor, he stepped back. No one but the Nara genius, Shikamaru, noticed his clenched fists and the small trails of blood leaking from his palms. The guests erupted into applause, and he got a few claps on the backs from his fellow groomsmen. He got a smirk from Sasuke, and Sakura smiled warmly at him. He forced a grin onto his face, because damn it, he wasn't going to ruin her day because he was feeling a little heartbroken. Sasuke was wearing a formal pitch black suit and tie, and it had the Uchiha emblem on the back. Sakura was donned in a tight-fitting, light pink wedding dress that hugged her body and accented it perfectly. More like your heart has been vaporized. Don't you hate people who lie to themselves, kid? I can feel your negative emotions. It feels exactly like dying, the Kyuubi remarked slyly. Naruto gave him the mental equivalent of a glare, and shut him out for the time being as he sat down near the punch bowls, next to Kakashi and Yamato. An hour later, and a few cups of sake later, the reception was in full swing. The music was loud, the crowd was happy, and Naruto couldn't feel any more miserable for himself. I'm pathetic, fucking pathetic. Aren't you going to ask her to dance? His first sensei asked. Yamato gave him a sad look. The blonde frowned. No, I'm not going to ask her to dance, because if I do, I won't want to let go. Naruto shrugged. Dunno where she is. He lamely replied. I'm right here, idiot. A feminine voice sounded from behind him, and he felt his heart leap into his chest. He looked behind and sighed when he saw her. She's beautiful. Well, you gonna ask, or what? Sakura said, smiling and holding her hips. He groaned inwardly, cracked a smile. All of his previous resistance was shattered when he saw her lips quirk upwards in happiness. May I have this dance, Sakura-chan? He asked, and when he saw her eyes light up, he smiled genuinely, but only just. He stood up, grabbed her hand, and led her to the middle of the room. His mind then caught up with his actions. She flung her arms around his neck, while he reluctantly placed his hands on her hips. Her wonderful, shapely hip. No. He wondered briefly if this would hurt him in the end. Probably. She rested her head on his shoulder, causing him to stiffen further. Why, of all times, is she choosing to be close to me after she's married? Cammy hates me. I have no other explanation. She sighed in delight. I'm so happy. Thank you, Naruto, for everything. She trailed off. He grimaced. Many people were watching the two dance. He caught the eye of Yamato, who gave him another sad, knowing smile. The Mokuton user understood well. Yeah, I'm happy too. He lied. She looked up at him and sighed after catching his lie. It was going to break her heart to do this, but it had to be done. This is necessary, for both of us. Naruto, I know how you still feel about me, she stated, and his breath hitched in his throat. He froze and felt a tight ball of dreadful feelings build up within him. Oh no, no no no. But, I want to spend some time apart. Us, I mean, we shouldn't hang out anymore. I don't want to break your heart, she said sadly, as if they were breaking up. As they swayed uncomfortably, Naruto's thoughts drifted to his most painful memory of him and Sakura, rivaled only by her confession in the Land of Iron. Right after the war, when Naruto almost died, Sakura's emotions got control over her actions. She was scared for Naruto's life. She felt so desperate, so alone that she kissed him in the medical tent. All protocol was thrown out of the window, and Naruto was too shocked to do anything. It led to the two sharing each other's bodies. It was a blur, it was desperate. It was both of their first times, and it was clumsy, unbearably awkward, yet passionate at the same time. As he made love to the girl of his dreams, the girl he had loved for so long, any thoughts of doubt or questions were abolished. It was only until they both reached the mountainous peak and climaxed, and when she accidentally called Sasuke's name instead of his, the world fell apart. She used him, pretended he was the Uchiha. Their friendship was broken, and his heart was fractured, as if someone had stuck a million kunai into it. After that, the awkwardness between the two was intense. He made a silent vow to himself to never speak of the event, in an effort to salvage what remained of their shaky and tattered relationship. They were never quite the same after that. That night was forgotten, yet lingered in their minds every time they met up. He scoffed uncharacteristically. Too late for that, he muttered, dropping his hands to his sides. Sakura did the same and stared at him, wide-eyed. Naruto, I'm sorry, I really am. I love Sasuke-kun. We're married. I don't want to cause you any more pain. I care for you too, you know. He laughed bitterly. The jealousy was overpowering the heartbreak, and for once in his selfless, miserable life, he felt like being selfish and making her see. This was a long time in the making. He thought angrily. Yeah, right. You've never given a shit about me. I was your tool to get Sasuke. I suppose you cared about me when you begged me to get him back for you? I guess you cared for me when you used my feelings against me in the Land of Iron to deal with him yourself? Or when you automatically jumped into his arms when I finally brought him back, he knew the palm that connected with his cheek was coming. He didn't even flinch when she slapped him. She had tears in her eyes and her bottom lip was quivering. Why you? How can you even say that? Of course I care. You're just jealous. She accused. I'm not going to lie to myself and say I'm not. You're right, I'm jealous. For some fucking reason, I'm in love with you, and I'm jealous that you've married the guy who doesn't even deserve you. He admitted, glaring into her teary jade eyes. She gasped when he said he was in love with her. Hearing the words shocked her. And Naruto, stop being an idiot, she said angrily, yet had a begging tone in her voice. So that night, after the war, that meant nothing to you? He asked quietly, and her eyes widened. Oh no, of course it didn't. You just used me once more. But I still loved you. Even when you said his name, I still loved you. He stated darkly before she could reply. That was a one-time thing. We both weren't even thinking. It was a mistake, she said, tears falling down her cheeks. Exactly, a mistake. That's all everything is. Just one big mistake. He sighed. And look at me now. I made you cry on your fucking wedding day. Another mistake I've made. Well, I hope you enjoy your life with Sasuke. Name one of the kids after me, nay? Goodbye, Sakura-san, he said, scowling, before walking away and leaving her there. She sniffed as she watched one of her most important people finally walk out of her life, after years of abuse and anguish. God, I'm so sorry, Naruto. Every step he took he felt the guilt weighing him down. He felt her gaze on his back. I shouldn't have snapped like that. I just ruined her happiness. Something I swore never to do. God damn it, I can't do anything right. Thankfully, the conversation was quiet enough and the music was loud enough that not many heard what was said, or knew that she slapped him. He slumped down back in his chair at the singles table. Rock Lee, Kiba Inuzuka, Choji Akamichi and Sai Shikamaru was in a relationship with the Case Cage's sister, Tamari. The two were out on the floor, dancing. Or rather, she was dancing, he was merely shuffling his feet around lazily. Kiba looked at him sadly. He was one of the few who observed the whole thing. You alright, dude? Naruto nodded numbly, staring at his lap. Girls are heartbreakers, Kiba muttered, leaning back. The blonde glanced at Kiba, who was watching Hinata dance with Neji. He felt bad for Kiba. He knew the pain he felt from the very beginning. If he could find anyone to relate to, it was the Inuzuka. Kiba was in love with Hinata, who in turn was in love with Naruto. After the war, Kiba had confessed his love to the Hyuga heiress, who had to politely reject him. Soon after, Naruto did the same with her. The timing couldn't have been worse. Though, Kiba never held it against him, just as Naruto couldn't hate Sasuke. Sakura was happy now. He looked at Kiba and then to the other men around the table, who were chatting. Noticing his gaze, they looked at him. The blonde's eyes flickered to the open bar. Want to get drunk? This was a mistake. Drink, drink, drink. The crowd roared as he and Kiba were in a drinking contest. Naruto took 5 shots and beating Kiba, shotgunned a beer. He belched loudly, half drunk, and the guests erupted into laughter. He giggled and high-fived Kiba. You shuck Kiba. He slurred, his eyes unfocused. The Kyuubi deep inside the blonde sighed. The damn brat got drunk. Fantastic. I hope he knows that I can't heal intoxication without him going into Biju mode, which will cause him to blow up half of this god-forsaken village. Kiba fell over and passed out. Shino, who was observing, sighed and picked him up to bring him home. Naruto stumbled away before he set eyes on a certain table on the other side of the room. Tsunade, Sakura, Sasuke and Iruka were there, all chatting amongst themselves, until the old academy teacher spotted the blonde. He waved enthusiastically at him. Naruto, over here, let's have a cha, is he drunk? Iruka asked, eyes wide. Sasuke smirked, while Sakura frowned. She felt both angry and guilty. She felt as though she had a part to play in Naruto's current state. She didn't know whether she was mad at him or herself for their earlier chaotic conversation, which she was keeping to herself. The blonde barely made his way over. He giggled madly. Iruka sensei, Tilda, he sang. Oh good god, the Dobi is drunk. Sasuke said, palming his face. Tsunade glared at her fellow blonde. That brat thinks he can get drunk at a wedding without telling me? You know, Kiba really sucks at drinking. I'm not even drunk Yi-wo. He yelled. Lee, now completely hammered, had fallen back out of his chair from a single sip of sake, causing Naruto to trip over the intoxicated green beast of Konoha. The Kyuubi vessel fell face first into Tsunade's still wide-open cleavage. Everyone at the table gawked at the two blondes. Show shocked. Naruto muttered, not realizing how much trouble he was in. Tsunade gently put her glass down and cracked her knuckles. Oh boy, Iruka said quietly. Sasuke shielded his eyes. Sakura felt her eyes well up again. All I can do is cause him pain. Look at him. He's drunk and about to get killed by Tsunade Shisho. You damned brat, the Hokage yelled, picking up Naruto by the scruff of his neck and punching him in the face. He flew across the room, but was caught by Kakashi, who observed the whole thing. Naruto was now unconscious, and the copy nin frowned at him. Naruto, you've handled so much, can you handle this? After saying his goodbyes, he left, carrying Naruto on his back. Sakura watched her two teammates leave. Naruto cracked his eyes open and immediately regretted the decision. He felt as though his eyes were on fire, and someone was smashing a brick into his skull. He noticed he was donned only in a pair of boxers and a t-shirt. He sat up, groaning in pain. Fucking hangovers, what happened? He looked around and noted he was in Kakashi's apartment. What the hell am I doing here? He looked to the side table and saw 2 notes, a glass of water and some aspirin. He took the pills and downed the water, sighing in relief of his quenched thirst, then read the first note. Naruto, there's food in the fridge. Tsunade-sama said you have a week off. Try to not wallow in your own misery, K? Smiley face. Kakashi, your wonderful teacher. It was then yesterday came back to him. Sasuke and Sakura-chan's wedding. I got drunk. Fuck. He sighed and picked up the other note, freezing when he recognized the handwriting. He remembered his and his pink-haired love's conversation yesterday, and bracing himself for the pain, opened the letter. Naruto, I'm sorry. For everything. That night we shared. It did mean something to me. I don't want you to think I just used you. After what happened during it, I felt guilty. So guilty, it consumed me. But now I'm married to Sasuke-kun, and we love each other. Our honeymoon is tomorrow. Perhaps when I return, we can talk about everything and finally get some closure for us. I don't think we can remain friends, though. Once again, I'm sorry for all the pain I've caused you. I hope you can forgive me. Sakura. Tears fell from his eyes, splattering the page. I don't think we can remain friends. Are you joking? He wasn't ready for Sakura to leave his life. Not yet. He needed her to become Hokage, just as he needed all of his precious people. Even if not as a lover, he still wanted her friendship. I fucked up. Big time. Naruto clenched his fists, crumpling the note. God damn it. He muttered, his resolve and his dreams shattering. He couldn't help the cry of anguish that escaped his lips as his buried and forgotten emotions washed over him. She was gone, out of his grasp forever. She was Sasuke's now. They're probably off fucking in some fancy hotel. He slammed his face into the pillow and screamed, letting out all of his emotions. She was never his. Always Sasuke's, forever Sasuke's. Even after all the shit he pulls, she still loves him, and I've just forgotten like a used toy. He sat there, crying for what seemed like hours. His mask had fallen. He allowed himself to be selfish for once in his life and just think of him, and only him. Naruto thought of her and everything he loved about her. It made him feel even worse. Her short, shoulder-length pink hair, her critical, yet gentle Viridian eyes. Her body was nothing short of amazing. Her personality was his favorite feature, determined, passionate and hot-headed, though still maintaining caution. He tilted his head out of his pillow, gasping for air. His eyes were numb, and he sniffed loudly, muttering curse words under his breath. Naruto already felt exhausted mentally. He closed his eyes, trying to will away the pain. His sage training helped when he needed to focus on something. Right now he was focusing on not going insane from the mixture of jealousy, sadness and heartbreak welling up in his gut. A few short minutes later, he fell into a dream-filled sleep. Images of Sakura yelling at him, going on dates with her, laughing together, training together and being with each other clouded his mind. Kurama frowned and realized one thing. He needs to get over her. Naruto awoke once more, feeling groggy. His face was numb and the hangover was still present. The blonde picked up the crumpled note that Sakura wrote him and reread it over and over. She thinks we can't be friends anymore. We haven't been friends for years. He groaned and got out of bed before shuffling to the bathroom. One look in the mirror disgusted him. I look like shit, and feel like it too. He took a quick shower, washed his face and brushed his teeth a couple of times. Satisfied with his cleanliness, he walked out of the bathroom and padded down the hallway to the kitchen. After delving through Kakashi's surprisingly well-stocked fridge, he made a giant feast, consisting of bacon, eggs, toast, ramen, ice cream and brownies. Well, might as well eat my sorrows away, he thought before digging into the food. A good half-hour later, he was stuffed and lying in bed again, staring at the ceiling. Naruto was never good at keeping his emotions under wraps while alone, and he started to feel the now familiar ball of jealousy, sadness and a bit of anger well up within him. He felt discarded, useless and lonely. Kakashi walked into the room to see Naruto staring blankly at the roof with his arm draped over his head. The copy nin frowned at his old student. He's not taking this well. You all right? He asked. Naruto merely grunted in reply, not shifting his gaze. Kakashi sighed and walked back out. He needs a distraction, he thought, before poofing away to parts unknown. Kurama frowned at his vessel from within his mind. Kit, come into the seal. I want to talk with you. Naruto obliged, closing his eyes and reappearing inside his mindscape. Thanks to their new bond as friends, it was no longer a dreary sewer and jailed cage. It was now a sunny, blue-skied green meadow. The Kyuubi was transformed into a small version of himself as Naruto lied down in the middle of the meadow. He curled up beside his vessel, his 9 tails swishing silently behind him. "What did you want to talk about, Kurama?" Naruto asked quietly as he watched the clouds roll by. "Naruto, forget about the Haruno. You're starting to make my own existence unpleasant. If not for me, then for yourself," the demon fox said, resting a paw on his partner's shoulder. Naruto looked into his crimson eyes, sighing. "I can't. I've loved her for how long now? I can't just up and forget everything we've been through. What we've said, done, just." The blonde trailed off sadly. "Have you ever tried?" the Kyuubi asked, and Naruto froze. It then hit him, not once in his life had he ever tried to get over Sakura. There were many reasons. One was he never gave up. But now that wasn't an option. She was married, they would never be. "I haven't." He saw the Kyuubi grin. "Well, then, why don't you? I'm not concerned nor familiar with the mating rituals of humans, but why don't you spend your week off going on dates, or what have you? Perhaps you can find someone more suited to your desires." The blonde sighed, but Sakura-chan is Sakura-chan. Angry as her actions make me, I love her, and probably will forever. I don't want to live a life of lies and say I love another when I don't. That's the whole reason it will never work with me and Hinata. I can't give her the love she wants to give me. Kurama scoffed and laughed mirthlessly. Love, what a troublesome emotion. Just because you go on dates doesn't mean you have to love the person. Hang out with other girls, get to know them. Who knows, you may fall in love with another along the way. Naruto thought for a minute. I guess so, he replied reluctantly. It's not like it will be hard. You have a whole village of girls who would be more than willing to spend their time with you. I'm worried about you, as hard as it is to say. As we both know, I feel your emotions. It baffles me that you can feel this and keep on going. I'm not telling you to instantly forget your feelings. Just live a little. Thanks, Kurama, for everything, Naruto said. His Biju merely patted his shoulder before he was thrust out of his mind. Naruto stood up and got dressed. He stood at the door to the apartment, sighing. He opened the door, and locking behind him with a spare key Kakashi had given him, hopped onto the rooftops and traveled to his own home. He walked in, slamming the door behind him. His mind was reeling. Why did Sakura have to do this to me? He thought in frustration, slamming his palms into the wall that adorned the hallway he was standing in. He didn't know what to think or do, and within minutes, he was on his soft, comfortable bed, drowning in his misery. It had been a miserable 3 days for Naruto Uzumaki. After sitting in bed for a few hours, he decided to do something about his gradually accelerating depression. He had gone on 10 dates with 10 different girls, yet all of them went terribly. They all ended up being fangirls only interested in his prestige and, now, money, and they all had the emotional range of a brick. He couldn't help but compare them to the lively, passionate and generally fun nature of Sakura. She's probably off fucking him right now. Bastard probably can't keep his hands off her. I certainly couldn't. Naruto strolled calmly down the street, trying to clear his mind of the pink-haired girl that held and crushed his heart unintentionally. The waves and greetings he was getting from the villagers alleviated his mood a little. He walked by the Yamanaka flower shop and froze when he saw the platinum-haired blonde sitting at the register, resting her chin on her palm and looking utterly bored. I wonder if Ino will go out with me? Can't hurt to try. Naruto walked in, and the door chimed. Ino looked up and raised an eyebrow when she saw her fellow blonde. Naruto, what are you doing here? He walked over and hopped up onto the counter. Just felt like stopping by, he said, though his voice wavered a bit. In truth, Ino was one of 4 women that scared him, the others being Tsunade, Sakura and his own mother. Her gaze narrowed and her brows knitted together. What do you want, Uzumaki? She questioned, not having any clue as to why he was sitting there. He smiled. Time to work that Uzumaki charm. What do I want? I want to take you out. Take me out? Like, on a date? She asked, perplexed. He nodded enthusiastically. I've gone on dates with a bunch of girls and so far they've been. He trailed off. Terrible? She supplied. Yeah, and yeah, I wanted to see if you wanted to get dinner tonight, or whatever, you know. 'Cause I think you're pretty. Wait, and smart. She giggled at his inexperience. You're not so good at this, are you? She asked, and he shook his head. Well, pick me up at 7. And Naruto. She started and he looked at her, in his head. Her gaze saddened when she saw pain in his eyes. You still love forehead, don't you? Ino asked, and he looked down, frowning. He slightly nodded, staring at his feet before looking up. I don't want you to think I'm using you or anything. It's just, I've loved her for so long. I never really spent the time to know other girls. He admitted. She placed her hand on his, smiling. Don't worry about it, let's just have some fun tonight. Naruto smiled at her before leaving. As soon as he walked out, the hollow feeling of dread filled him again. He pawned his face as he walked to his apartment. Talking to Ino helped, but he still felt absolutely terrible. Naruto sighed as he knocked on Ino's apartment door. He glanced down at what he was wearing. A pair of black jeans, a button-up t-shirt, and his shinobi sandals. I hope this is the right thing to wear. The door opened, and he slightly gawked at her appearance. She was wearing a tight, light green t-shirt, a miniskirt and black heels. Dude, you're drooling, Ino teased, and he blushed, wiping his mouth. He stood there awkwardly, and she smirked and took his hand before they set off. So where are we going? Ichiraku's? The platinum-haired blonde asked. Naruto glanced at her. Nah, unless you want to, we're going to the new restaurant that opened up by the academy. Good, I like ramen, but it's not exactly a fit place for a date, you know? She said as they continued walking at an easy pace. The two chatted until they got to the place. Naruto found it very easy to talk to Ino. She was laid back, cheerful and exuberant. After getting seated, Ino observed Naruto's appearance. Damn, he looks good. But, his eyes, they're pained. He must still be taking the marriage pretty hard. Noticing her critical gaze, he hid his head. Something wrong? No, not really, anyways. Listen, Naruto. She started, and the tone of her voice made him nervous. He had an inkling suspicion she was going to bring up an unsavory topic. About forehead. You should, you know, talk about it to me. Vent your feelings out. I went through what you're going through, once. I know how much it hurts. It helps to talk about it, she said lightly, gripping one of his now clenched hands from across the table. The food arrived at that moment. The waitress smiled softly at the young couple before shuffling off. What is there to say, Ino? Naruto said as he absently picked at his bowl of ramen. How do you feel? Like I'm dying. It feels like there's a hole in my gut that will never be filled. I miss her. I feel like I'm losing my mind. He admitted, palming his face. I felt that too, with Shika. But, I'm over him now, and we're better friends than we were before. At the word, friend, Naruto started to chuckle humorlessly. Sakura doesn't want us to be friends anymore because she doesn't want to break my heart. She already did, and we haven't had a decent conversation in years, ever since. He stopped himself, his gaze growing distant, which perplexed Ino. Ever since? She prodded, and he shook his head. I don't want to bring it up. At least, not in public. He promptly scarfed down the meal, waited for Ino to do the same, and dropped a wad of cash onto the table when the bill came a few minutes later. His emotions were bubbling to the surface. The two walked out. Want to come to my place, then we can talk more? Ino asked, and Naruto nodded, biting his lip. They arrived at her home and walked inside. Ino closed and locked the door behind them. Glancing at the clock on the wall, it was almost 10 p.m. Naruto's legs gave out and he collapsed on the couch, fisting his hair as Ino went to grab some drinks. She came back with a few bottles of sake, and she popped them open, handing one to the blonde. He accepted it gratefully, taking a long swig of the alcohol, reveling in the feeling the warm liquid gave him as it went down his throat. Now, what happened between you two? After the war ended, we all noticed you guys drifting apart. The Yamanaka said, leaning back and sipping on her drink. He looked at her, his eyes filled with unshed tears. I mean we. He struggled to find the words. He hadn't told a soul about that event, but a mixture of his grief, jealousy, anger and the sake running through his system was loosening his lips. She raised an eyebrow. It must be pretty important, I wonder. He exhaled his stress, took another swig, and stared her dead in the eyes. We slept together. After the war, he said simply, though his voice was laced with pain and venom. Her jaw dropped and her eyes widened. She slept with him? So that's who. It all makes sense now. What? How? She questioned, and he sighed. I almost died near the end, and I guess she was really worried, so she just kissed me. One thing led to another. He trailed off, and his fellow blonde nodded in understanding. Wait, why do you sound like it's the most disgusting ever to happen to you? Ino suddenly asked, and she noted his eyes darkening and his brows furrowing. When we, climaxed, he swallowed thickly. She called his name, not mine. I guess she was just pretending I was him. Ino gasped in horror and quickly pulled him into an embrace. Oh my god, Naruto. You poor guy. I can't even imagine what that must have done. She whispered, I want to hate her so bad, but I can't. He said quietly, returning the hug. Her heart twinged at his words. He doesn't deserve that. He pulled back, sighing. After that, our friendship was basically non-existent. It was too awkward, especially after, the Kyuubi vessel said sadly. He downed the bottle of sake and reached for another one. Ino did the same, and their hands touched. Naruto was about to chuckle nervously until he met her gaze once more. Something drew the two together, be it the sake, the strong emotions both were feeling, or some strange mixture of the both. Their faces drew close, and before either could think of what was happening, their lips crashed into each other. As her lips moved on his, Naruto could tell Ino was very experienced. He timidly cupped her cheek, not knowing what to do. He felt her smirk against him, and felt her tongue push into his mouth. He jumped a little when it began to probe around, but regained his senses and battled a slick muscle with his own. The two made out for what seemed like forever, and finally the need for air arrived. They pulled back from each other, flushed and breathing heavily. She stood up, grabbed his hand, and led the dazed Jinchuriki to her purple-colored bedroom. She pushed him onto the bed, a seductive smile on her face. He gulped. The alcohol was affecting them now. It was all a blur to the blondes as their clothes were stripped and their kissing continued. His lips trailed off over hers, down her jawline and onto her neck. She mewed in pleasure when he found her pulse point and suckled on it lightly, pressing his chest to hers. The tightness intensified, and Ino felt her abdomen light up like a bonfire. She screamed in pleasure, gripping Naruto's back in desperation as he orgasm washed over her. Her inner walls clamped down on him, and it became his undoing. He grunted his release into his ear, and collapsed onto her body. They both began to catch their breaths, and Naruto pulled out before rolling over. The two stared at the ceiling. Wow, he breathed. The sake was all but gone from his system, and glancing over at Ino, could tell it passed for her as well. He began to feel guilty, for what reason he didn't know. Catching his fallen expression, she gripped his hand and smirked. That washed away his worry, and the hollow feeling in his heart was mended slightly. Round 2, Naruto awoke sore, exhausted and yet better than he had felt in months. His mind played over the memories of the previous night, the date, confessing his problems, sleeping with Ino. He felt almost disgusted with himself. He had practically used her, even though she led most of it. The blonde breathed in, and the air smelled of bacon and other breakfast foods. He glanced around the room, and spotting his froggy boxers, pulled them on before walking out of the room. He arrived to see Ino dressed in his shirt and a pair of panties, placing 2 plates of breakfast on her table. She looked at him and smiled. "Sleep well?" she asked, and he nodded before taking a seat at the table. The two ate in comfortable silence before Naruto looked up. "Listen, Ino. I didn't mean to use you last night." She held up her hand. "Relax. I'm not looking for a serious relationship, and something tells me you needed that. If you keep doing what you did last night, I won't mind you using me." She added with a wink, which caused him to blush fiercely. He sighed in relief as he chugged down a glass of orange juice. "So, are we like dating or something?" Ino lightly shrugged, taking a bite of toast. Her platinum blonde hair was messy, which only added to her allure. "Yeah, sure. More like fuck buddies, but dating nonetheless." "Fuck buddies," Naruto repeated quietly as he looked out the window. Ino went to her bathroom to shower and get dressed. His regrets were squashed by his feelings. "This is exactly what I need. Just a casual relationship, just to take my mind off of her." Naruto was lying in the middle of the training grounds on the soft green grass. The sun was shining overhead, and barely any clouds were in sight. He felt, for the first time in a few years, genuinely at peace with himself. The dull heartache in his chest was still there, and he dreaded the moment his teammates returned from their week off, but he still felt good. It had been 4 days since his relationship with Ino had began, and he loved every second of it. She was exactly what he wanted and needed, and she felt the same about him if he was reading things correctly. He had split his time between being with her and training himself to the bone. He would summon no less than 500 clones, battle them and remake them until he was utterly exhausted, then pull himself together and repeat the process. The blonde heard footsteps approaching and glanced over to see his silver-haired sensei walking over. The copy nin knelt down next to his student, looking at him pensively. Naruto knew that the Junin was aware of his feelings towards their female teammate, and he sighed. "Hey, Naruto, how's it going?" Kakashi asked. Naruto smiled genuinely, shocking his sensei. "I'm doing good, sensei. Better than I was before," he replied quietly, shifting his gaze back to the pure, baby blue sky. "Oh, why's that?" the Junin asked, deciding to plop down next to the blonde. The cool wind rustled both of their messy, gravity-defying hair, creating a calming atmosphere. "I'm in a relationship with Ino, I guess. We're mostly just having, but we talk a lot too. It's been helping," he admitted bluntly, a slight crimson glow appearing on his cheeks. Kakashi's eye opened wide in shock. "My cute little genin, you move on fast," he suddenly remarked, but Naruto shook his head, exhaling slowly. "No, I haven't moved on, at all. It's just, she distracts me. I think she's in the same kind of situation as well. It sounds fucked up, but we're sort of using each other." "That kind of relationship could end poorly, Naruto," Kakashi warned, but said Jinchuriki shrugged. A flock of birds flew overhead, and Naruto watched them fly by as he thought of his next words. "It's nothing but casual. Like I said, it sounds weird that we're just using each other." "Using sounds too harsh. It's more like mutually beneficial, no strings attached," he said. By now, Kakashi had a perverted smirk under his face. "Naruto, you're pretty lucky." The blonde pushed himself up with his palms. "Anyways, I still feel terrible because of, I've been training and training, but..." He trailed off, and Kakashi patted his shoulder. "It's a tough thing to overcome. I was in love once. But that's a story for another time. Listen, go to the Hokage's office tomorrow morning. We have a little offer for you. I can't say anything now, but you'll find out then," the copy nin said, running a hand through his hair as he stood up. He nodded his goodbye before poofing away in a plume of smoke, leaving a very curious Naruto behind. Near the gates of the village, a young couple walked towards their home slowly, hand in hand. Sasuke and Sakura Uchiha were returning to the village after their rather eventful honeymoon. The medic nin was giddy. It was all she ever dreamed as a little girl. She glanced at her raven-haired lover and saw that he was still his usual stoic, emotionless self. But something left a slight pang in her heart, her blonde-haired idiot of a teammate. His heartbroken and angry face from their conversation a week prior was burned into her memory. She definitely needed to have that talk with him. She felt guilty, too. She had lied to her husband. She lied to Sasuke when they were lying in the fluffy, silky bed, about to make love. He had asked her if it was her first, and she said it was. Sakura had repressed the memory of her time with Naruto and didn't want to bring it up, especially not with Sasuke. The pinkhead also felt terrible for leaving Naruto in the dust like a used toy. She was well aware of how much she hurt him. She desperately wanted to patch things up with him, but she didn't know how at this point. Sakura knew going back to being friends with Naruto would be next to impossible, at least at that point in time. "Perhaps in a few years, we can all be friends again, like before." Sasuke gave her hand a squeeze before releasing it, snapping her out of her thoughts. "I'm going to go home and shower. I'll see you later," he said, and she smiled at him as he walked off. The pinkette walked down the street for a few minutes, admiring her village and its inhabitants. She smiled at a few of the shopkeepers she had grown to know. She had missed Konoha. It was then she passed by the local flower shop and saw the blonde girl inside. Sakura smiled at her best friend and walked in. The door chimed, causing Ino to look up, and a smile to spread across her face. "Forehead, you're back," the voluptuous Yamanaka exclaimed, rushing up to the pink-haired girl and embracing her. Sakura returned it, grinning. "How are you, Ino pig?" Ino smirked. "Oh, she replied, her voice sultry. Sakura's eyes widened a little. She knew that tone all too well. You got another boyfriend, didn't you? She questioned, earning only a wink from her fellow kunoichi. The curiosity bubbled to the surface, and suddenly Sakura got an idea, something she was planning on bringing up anyways. Hey, we should set up a party tonight. All the rookies and guys team. We can all catch up at say 7? And then I can settle things with Naruto, and find out who Ino is dating. Ino's eyes lit up. Sounds like a plan. I'll let everyone know, and I'll bring him along, she said, before the two delved into the juicy details of the Pinkette's honeymoon. As Sakura explained it all, it caused Ino's thoughts to drift to Naruto, and a slight frown formed on her face. Naruto, I wish I could help you get over her. If you heard this, after talking to Sakura, Ino decided to pay Naruto a visit. She knocked on the door of his apartment and heard some shuffling inside. A loud bang, followed by a slew of muffled curse words, caused her to giggle. The door opened, revealing a disheveled Naruto wiping his shirt of dust. Ino, what's up? He asked, leaning against the doorway. He noticed a smirk on her face, and that meant one thing, she was planning something. Tonight, party, everyone's going to be there, she said, before pushing herself into his home, ignoring his yells of invading his privacy. The blonde calmly walked into her boyfriend's bedroom, scowling in disgust at the mess, but delved into his large dresser and disorganized closet. He walked in, frowning. Everyone? He questioned before sitting on his surprisingly soft bed. He noticed her expression darken. They're back. She stopped by today and we talked. Was she happy? Naruto asked quietly. Ino froze in her search for a suitable outfit for her fellow blonde and met his gaze. Yeah, she really was, she replied sadly, and Naruto looked down. At least someone is. I wonder what happened during this week. His curiosity got the better of him. He was someone who didn't like things being kept from him. He despised secrets, and could tell Ino knew much about this particular topic. What did she say happened? He asked reluctantly, fearing the answer. And with good reason. Ino told him everything she had said. About their stay in the hot springs, what they did, how happy it made Sakura feel. By the end of the story, Naruto was seething, and the tension was palpable. Naruto was in the now familiar swirl of anger, envy and heartbreak. The two relieved said tension the only way they knew how, and it resulted in a noise complaint, a cracked wall and a broken bed frame. At 7 o'clock, the party was in full swing. They decided to book the local bar and club for the night. So, Ino, who's this guy? Tenten asked, taking a sip of her drink as her eyes darted to a certain Hyuga prodigy who was playing beer pong with Kiba, Lee and Shino. You'll see, the blonde replied. At the table was her, Tenten, Sakura, Sasuke, Hinata and Tamari, who Ino was trying her best not to glare at or hate. Suddenly the doors opened, and 3 figures walked in. As the light hit them, it revealed Sai, Naruto and Choji. The Kyuubi vessel fiddled with his shirt. It felt too tight, especially in the heat of the club. Naruto's eyes glanced around the room. The music was loud, and he could spot a few people dancing. His eyes landed on the table of Kunoichi, and his breath hitched in his throat when he saw a pink-haired woman talking to a lavender-haired Hyuga. Oh shit. He went to the bar to order a drink, clenching and unclenching his fists, before a familiar voice called him. Naruto, over here, said Jinchuriki glanced back to see Ino waving at him, and the other shinobi looking at him curiously. He got his drink and slowly walked over, avoiding the green pair of eyes staring at him. Naruto plopped down in the seat next to Ino, his eyebrow raised as he sipped on the alcohol. What's up? He asked. Oh god. Don't tell me, you're dating Naruto? Tenten asked, completely amused, snickering to herself. Hinata coughed on her drink, her pale eyes wide in terror. Don't tell me it's true? Naruto-kun. She had always thought Naruto only had feelings for the pink-haired girl she was just speaking to, not 5 minutes ago. The Hyuga saw right through Naruto's forced, pained smile at the wedding, and seeing him like that had horrified her. Sakura froze, her eyes wide. She didn't want to explain the slight constriction of her chest, though she blamed it on her old rivalry with the Yamanaka. She glanced at her blonde teammate who was blushing slightly, staring at his drink. You already moved on. Nah, not really, we're just fuck buddies, they said in unison, shocking each other. They grinned and high-fived, laughing. Hinata's heart clenched, and she looked down, her lip quivering. She glanced up and looked at her blonde love. She noticed that his smile was strained, and he was looking everywhere but the two Uchihas sitting at the table. It all clicked in her mind then. He's still not over her. Naruto's laughter stopped as he glanced at Sasuke and Sakura out of the corner of his eye. His heart clenched when he saw the loving gaze she gave to the Uchiha. For an unknown reason, his thoughts drifted to 2 years ago, when the two had the infamous encounter in the Land of Iron that shook the foundations of their friendship for the worse. What I said, Naruto, is that I love you. With you, I can be close like this. You make me feel safe. Right now, from the bottom of my heart, I hate people who lie to themselves. Naruto, a voice yelled, snapping him out of his daze, and they looked to see Kiba approaching, but grin on his face. He slapped Naruto on the back. Man, I haven't seen you in forever, Uzumaki. Not since we got drunk at that wedding. The Inuzuka exclaimed. The mention of the ceremony caused Naruto's heart to plummet, and his face fell a bit. Haha, yeah, I've been busy, he said, shaking his head of his previous thoughts. Hey, want to play some Pong? You'll need a partner, Kiba asked. Naruto nodded, too happy to get away from the table's inhabitants, and stood up as Kiba walked back to the game. The blonde glanced back. Ino, let's show them how to play, Naruto said in a forcefully amused tone, and Ino caught it, smiling. She stood up and the two walked over to the others. Sasuke watched Naruto walk away with a girl who he, up until 5 minutes ago, had thought was still infatuated with him. It confused the Uchiha greatly, as she had never shown any interest in the other blonde before. When the hell did the Dobi get with Ino? He then noticed his tense expression lessen the further he got away from the table, and saw his wife staring at Naruto sadly. Something must have happened between them. Does he still hold that childish crush on her? For once, Sasuke didn't understand his blonde comrade. A few hours later, the party was getting wild. The group were fairly intoxicated, and many of them took to the dance floor, where the music was intensely loud, and the lights were shining brightly. Naruto was leaning against the wall next to Kiba and Sai, watching their friends dance the night away. The blonde watched his two teammates all over each other, his heart clenching in envy. Oh, how he longed to be the one to be close to Sakura like that, running his hands along her finely sculpted body, whispering sweet nothings into her ear, placing his lips on hers in a heated kiss. He shook his head to clear those thoughts from his head, downing a shot of tequila. I need to find Ino. After about 5 minutes, he found her, sitting down on the floor next to a nearly passed-out Choji, giggling madly. She looked up and met his pained cerulean gaze. Her expression softened and she shakily stood up. She getting to you? Ino asked, earning only a nod. She glanced over his shoulder to see the couples grinding and she smirked. Let's show them how to dance. She took his hand and led him to the dance floor before promptly turning around and rubbing into him. A tipsy grin appeared on his face as he grabbed her soft, luscious hips, and the two danced. While Naruto was distracted, Ino took a look at Sasuke and Sakura, who were now sitting at the bar. Sakura watched in something akin to jealousy as her old rival danced with her teammate. She observed how much fun they were having, how happy the two looked. She glanced at Sasuke, who wasn't looking at anything in particular. Dancing with him was fun, but neither of them had the magnificent grins that the two blondes held. She desperately wanted to communicate with Naruto. It was eating away at her slowly. She could still see it in his eyes, the pain, the longing. But Sakura was at a loss. How do you go about telling the man who has been in love with you for over 6 years that they need to get over it? With my luck, I'll just end up hurting him more. What do I do? Naruto awoke, groaning in pain as a massive headache assaulted him. What the hell happened last night? He glanced around, noticing he was somehow still in the club. He pushed himself up off the floor with his hands. Oh, I got drunk. Again, but I don't remember anything too crazy happening. The only people still present were Ino, Neji, Lee and Sai, all passed out. He remembered Lee getting a sip of alcohol and preparing to go on a rampage, only to be tackled and knocked unconscious by the majority of his friends. Naruto walked to the bathroom and went to the sink. He grimaced at the sight of his greasy hair and bagged eyes. He splashed some cold water on his face, sighing in relief at the wake-up it provided him. He suddenly remembered Kakashi's words from the previous day. He had a meeting with the Hokage to get to. Leaving his passed-out friends and making sure they had access to water, he left the club. He winced at the brightness the morning sun provided him with, and carefully walked down the street to the Hokage's office. After arriving and giving a greeting to the rather friendly and bubbly receptionist, he jogged up the stairs and knocked on the door when he arrived. A muffled, "Come in," signaled his permission, and he opened the door. He saw Kakashi and Yamato there, both looking at him sternly. Tsunade had her fingers interlocked with one another, and was resting her chin on her hands, giving him the same stare that his two teachers were gracing him with. What's up?" he asked nervously, and the tension was thick in the room. "Smarten up, Brad. I presume Kakashi has told you of an offer of sorts?" Tsunade asked, her voice showing no amusement. A nod from the blonde allowed her to continue. "Very well. Despite me better judgment concerning your behavior at the wedding last week, I want to offer you a promotion." Naruto simultaneously saddened and lit up. "A promotion?" he asked. "Here's where you have a choice. This is the deciding factor if you want to become Hokage. Your efforts in the war and saving Konoha have brought you great praise, but you still need more experience. You are still a genin, but that can be alleviated," Tsunade said, before pulling out 2 folders. Naruto walked carefully to the desk. "This folder contains the forms that will grant you Tokubetsu Junin rank. Your duties will change from being an active duty shinobi to teaching individuals with larger than normal chakra reserves how to control it and techniques that utilize those reserves," she stated, pushing forward the folder on the right. Naruto scratched his chin. He loved teaching people. Konohamaru was his pride and joy. He had taught him the Rasengan, which was a feat he was proud of. "What's the other one?" he questioned, gesturing to the second folder. He noticed their gazes becoming even more serious. "That's your application to the ANBU Black Ops," Tsunade said, and Naruto had to force his jaw not to drop. In previous years, he had always thought of the ANBU as just people who didn't want to be noticed or seen. But as he lived on in the dangerous shinobi world, he found that the missions he always did paled in comparison to the ones he heard the ANBU doing. They were the best of the best in Konoha. They were elite killing machines that commanded a large amount of respect. They were the ones who took the most difficult, demanding and mentally staggering missions. "We want you to make this choice carefully, Naruto. The ANBU is a very serious deal. It's not just a mask and a tattoo. It's a commitment and a way of life," Kakashi said, crossing his arms. Naruto swallowed thickly, and catching his nervousness, Tsunade chuckled lightly. "You don't have to decide for another week or so. Take your time, mull things over, and make the choice when you can. It's a life-changing decision," she said simply, and they left it at that. Naruto bowed, before walking out of the office, running a hand through his hair. He heard the door open behind him, and saw Yamato walking towards him, a smile on his face. "So, what are you thinking of choosing?" the Mokuton user asked as he matched Naruto's pace. The blonde sighed and caught a whiff of his breath. "I'm a mess. I'm not sure. I mean, I'd love to teach people, but then I'd be stuck in the village most of the time, not doing missions. But then, the ANBU." He trailed off. He didn't know much about the organization. Naruto glanced to Yamato. "What do you guys do exactly?" he asked. His teacher chuckled. "Well, that's classified. The reason not many people know or think about Black Ops soldiers is because that's the way we want it to be. The ANBU are anonymous, cold-hearted, emotionless shinobi." The Jinchuriki swallowed thickly. Yamato patted his shoulder as they exited the building. "If you choose ANBU, it will be a very rewarding experience, and no doubt would cement your ascent to Hokage. But you will be asked, and forced, to do things that regular shinobi don't. You will have to kill, you will have to torture. But it is all for the benefit of Konoha. Can you handle that?" The blonde was about to speak, but his senior shut him up. "Think it over. I'm not leaning towards one or the other here, but with your situation with your teammates, the ANBU would be an escape," he said simply, before walking away. Naruto looked up to the sky. "ANBU, huh?" he asked himself before walking home. He needed a shower. A loud knocking caused a blonde-haired man to fall out of his bed in his sleep. Naruto blinked rapidly, trying to remember where he was. Home. He picked himself up, not bothering to put a shirt or a pair of pants on over his boxers, and walked to his door where the loud knocking was coming from. He opened and met the one-eyed gaze of his longtime sensei. "Ah, Naruto, did I wake you?" he said cheerfully, causing the blonde to glare and mumble under his breath. "Get dressed. We have a training exercise today. The Hokage wants us to brush up on our fighting and tactics. We haven't really done that since the war." "We?" The Junin sighed. "The team, as in, all of us. Can you handle that?" The blonde exhaled sharply. "Yeah, I'll meet you there," he said before closing the door. He ran a hand through his hair as he walked back to his room to get dressed. "Kit, you alright?" the Biju sealed within him asked. Naruto mentally shrugged. "I've been better, but I feel as though I can handle being around them now." "Ino really has helped a lot." The Kyuubi said nothing back, and Naruto, now fully clothed in his black and orange jumpsuit, stood in front of his door. He scratched the back of his head, a nervous ball filling in the pits of his stomach. He didn't want to see either of his teammates at this moment. Things were finally looking up for the blonde. Better sooner than later. Let's get this over with. Naruto walked slowly to the training grounds, where not 6 years ago they became a team. He looked up to the sky and sighed deeply. He missed the innocent days, full of wonder and fun, when the only things he had to worry about was ramen and his crush on Sakura. He exhaled his stress when he arrived, and saw Kakashi talking with the 2 other squad members. Naruto tensed when he overheard them speaking. "So, we're already thinking of names, even though we're waiting for Sasuke-kun to become a Junin. I also want to go deeper into my medical career." "Yeah, but doesn't stop us from, you know," Sasuke said slyly, winking at a blushing Sakura. Naruto grit his teeth hard when he heard what they were talking about. He walked up to them and gave a small, half-hearted wave when they glanced at him. "About time you got here," Kakashi said, and the blonde merely shrugged stiffly. "Okay, since we're all pretty rusty, being out of combat for the last 2 or so years, we're going to separate into teams of 2 and practice using all of the shinobi techniques, just like the bell test. Taijutsu, ninjutsu, genjutsu, and weaponry," the copy nin said. They all smiled in excitement, even Naruto. There was something about fighting that he missed. The thrill of it, the distraction it made from his emotions. It had been far too long since his last fight. Training against clones didn't compare to real combat. Sakura stole a glance at the determined blonde. "That's it, we're going to have that talk today. So, me and Naruto against Sasuke and Sakura. That should work out kindly," Kakashi said happily, choosing not to put Naruto with either of the others before tossing a bell to each of his former students. "The goal is to get the other team's bells. No restrictions besides the Kyuubi's chakra, of course. We start now, go," he yelled before they jumped into the trees. Naruto was panting heavily. He lost track of Kakashi and was under heavy attack from his 2 teammates. His back was against a tree and he could hear them approaching. For some reason, combat had a calming effect on him. He wasn't facing Sasuke and Sakura, the causes of his heartbreak and growing frustration, anger and dislike. He was facing an enemy like any other. That thought comforted him. The comfort didn't last long. Suddenly, the tree cracked behind him, and he leapt forward, rolling onto his feet as the bark snapped in half. Sakura stood there, her fist stretched out. Sasuke was right behind her, a smirk on his face. The tree fell onto the ground with a loud crash, shaking it slightly. Naruto wiped the sweat from his brow and stood up before he strafed around the 2. His mouth twitched upwards slightly. He was happy he could still enjoy things like this. "Shinobi skills number 2, ninjutsu," the blonde yelled, before creating a dozen clones and forming 2 Rasengan in his palms. The clones engaged his teammates, who began to fend them off. He jumped towards them, Rasengan first, and barely scraped them when they hopped out of the way. The jutsu collided with the forest floor, disintegrating the earth and mud. A large plume of dust covered the area, and Naruto quickly backed out of the twin craters he made. His back hit a tree once more, and his eyes snapped around the area. "Kaka-sensei, where the hell are you?" "HN, Dobi, you're forgetting another shinobi skill." A voice he knew all too well sounded from above. He glanced up to see the 2 Uchiha standing on a large branch. "Shinobi skills number 3, genjutsu," Sasuke exclaimed, and Naruto made the mistake of looking into his eyes. His breath caught in his throat as his vision blurred, and the world faded. He opened his eyes to see a very naked, very sweaty Sakura Haruno below him. Confusion hit him when he realized his body was moving on its own. It was then he realized this was a memory of his night with the pink-haired medic Nen. "And, fuck, Naruto," the girl beneath him moaned as he thrust in and out of her. He didn't want to watch this, he didn't want to relive this. He desperately tried to move his hands, to form chakra, to do anything. But his body didn't even twitch to his commands. His eyes moved on their own as they scanned the contours of her pleasure-filled face, her creamy white chest, and their connected S. A particularly hard thrust caused her to mewl in pleasure. The sound was both amazing and horrifying to Naruto. "Why your S so tight, Sakura-chan?" he said without wanting to. This was pure torture. It was then he felt everything as if it all was happening again. Both the physical and emotional. He suddenly leaned down and covered her mouth with his, muffling her moans as he continued to bury himself into her warmth. He remembered wondering briefly why she had entered his tent so late, why she had given him an unreadable look. Why she hugged him suddenly, how that hug grew into a kiss, and how that chaste, first kiss grew into shed clothes and the loss of both of their virginities in one single motion. The two locked gazes and it felt as if time had slowed down. He had only dreamed of doing this. Now that it was reality, it felt amazing. Not only with pleasure, but mentally as well. He was making love to the Sakura Haruno, the only girl who has ever captured his interest. As he felt her walls tighten around him, a feeling of dread filled him. He knew exactly what was coming next. Sakura-chan, I'm going to. He trailed off as her nails dug into his back, only increasing the sheer amount of ecstasy he was feeling. Sakura-chan, he cried out as his release overtook his senses. She became unbearably tight, and quivered around him as her body convulsed with her own orgasm. Sasuke, the pleasure was gone, completely. He felt numb. He stared, horrified, at her face, which was mirroring his own. He tried to form words, but none would come out. He knew this feeling well. He felt stupid for letting his lust and love for the pink-haired girl mess with his judgment. He pulled out of her, ever silent, and put on his clothes. The Kyuubi had already healed most of his injuries from the last battle, so he deemed it safe to leave. He glanced back at her saddened gaze. "I get it," he said stiffly before walking out, a slew of negative feelings clouding his mind. He felt betrayed, used, gullible and broken. She had broken him. Suddenly, the world faded once more. His eyes shot open, and he breathed in the cool, morning air harshly. Judging by the positions of his teammates, only a few seconds had passed in the jutsu. The stress and pure emotional torture from the genjutsu caused him to immediately double over and vomit. What kind of genjutsu was that? Sakura asked Sasuke quietly as Naruto finished his retching. It shows the victim's worst nightmare or worst memory. Whatever it was, must have been pretty horrible to cause that. He stated. The blonde was still panting. A wetness on his cheeks informed him he must have been crying. He wiped the tears and shakily stood up. That was a rough illusion, Teme. He tried to call cheerfully, but to no avail. His voice cracked, and he wavered as he walked towards them. They jumped from the trees, looking at him in worry. He suddenly made another batch of clones, and charged at them through the forest. Their eyes widened as another onslaught of Naruto's attacked them. Sasuke impaled a black and orange blur with his sword, while Sakura decked one in the mouth with a chakra-laced punch. 2 plumes of smoke erupted, followed by 6, then a dozen. The real Naruto was running through the trees, towards Sasuke, who spotted him and began doing hand seals. As the signs were complete, Naruto's mind suddenly exploded with emotion. Her moaning of the Uchiha's name repeated in his head, and his footing slipped. He could only watch in awe as he fell onto his stomach, and as a large fireball flew towards him. He clenched his eyes shut and expelled a blast of chakra from his body, slightly nullifying the ball of flames. He was still scorched a little, but nothing too severe. He heard them yell his name and rush over to his prone position. He rolled onto his back and stared wistfully at the pure, blue sky. "Here, Naruto, let me heal you," Sakura said as he knelt down next to the smoldering blonde. She was about to run through the hand seals for her medical jutsu, but he stopped her. "No," he said plainly, sitting up, ignoring her protest. "Naruto, sit still," she said angrily, her brow furrowing as she attempted to push him onto his back. A growl emitted from his throat. Sasuke watched with shocked interest. Naruto had never refused healing before. The two bickered back and forth until Naruto finally had enough. "Get the fuck off of me, Sakura," he yelled, pushing her back and standing up. The Kyuubi's chakra was already in the works, coursing through his body to heal his slight burns. 2 years of pent-up anger, sadness, and misery were overflowing in his mind. The genjutsu had brought up everything he thought he had forgotten, everything he thought he had healed from, mentally. "Dobi, what the hell is your problem?" Sasuke asked. "He's never been that hostile. It's you and her. That's my goddamned problem, Sasuke," he screamed. His mind and body were numb with anger and pain. The Kyuubi tensed when he felt the emotions coursing through his vessel's mind. "He's going to blow. What the hell did I do?" Sasuke asked. Sakura stood up shakily, tears welling in her eyes. Naruto chuckled mirthlessly. "You fucking bastard. You never figured it out? Why we never talk anymore? Why I'm always so tense? Why I feel like my fucking heart has been ripped out?" he said, trying to calm his anger, but it only increased the longer he was within their presence. "Stop. Calm down before you say something you'll regret. You took the one thing I've always wanted. You always got everything. Always better than me, with your prestige and your ego and your fucking clan." He spat angrily. Sasuke's eyes widened, now matching Sakura's viridian gaze. The blonde then pointed at Sakura without looking at her. "You took her. You took Sakura. You've never given a damn about her, but it was always you. This is about Sakura? You're angry because of some little crush?" he sneered. Sakura stifled a gasp. "Sasuke-kun, no." Naruto hardened his gaze. "A crush? You think I'm so insignificant, it's a little fucking crush? You don't get it. It's not some schoolyard crush. I loved her," the blonde said, unable to contain the pure anguish and hatred in his voice. "You're already taking it too far. Shut up, Uzumaki. What about Ino, then? She's never shown interest in you, nor you her, and yet you guys are together," Sasuke said, a little shaken by his ex-friend's confession of love for his wife. "That's none of your fucking business, Sasuke," Naruto snarled, his fist shaking. "Naruto, let's talk about this." Sakura started, but was cut off by the most angry, heartbreaking stare she had ever seen. "Talk about this? Talk about what, Sakura? There's nothing to talk about. You made that very clear when you used me like a fucking toy and then jumped into that bastard's arms right after." "Stop. Think about what you're saying. Sakura, what does he mean?" the Uchiha asked warily. Sakura swallowed thickly. It's, oh, you didn't tell your precious Sasuke-kun what you did to me? You broke me in ways that not even Orochimaru could think of. And then, after completely ruining me, you have the audacity to say that we can't be friends anymore, 2 years after the fact." He breathed, panting heavily. Naruto was finally calming down, and realized that he could possibly break their marriage with the information he held. A part of him, deep down, desired to do just that. To cause them pain, suffering and sadness. His more animalistic side, the one that held that spark of lust for the pink-haired girl, wanted to claim Sakura as his own. But he wouldn't do that. Not in a million years. "She's used now. She would never want me, anyways. I'm used. I. Sakura stammered, her face a ghostly pale. Her chest constricted with guilt. The blonde shook his head. "Whatever. It doesn't matter anymore. Not that it ever did." His hate and jealousy overpowered any sort of affection or friendship he had for the two Uchihas. They were stunned into silence. Sasuke watched his wife practically break down in what appeared to be guilt. What happened between them? He had caught her somewhat longing and sad gazes at their blonde teammate, but always thought it was because they weren't as close as they were before. It was clear to Sasuke now that something important must have happened between them. "Used? The hell does the Dobi mean?" "Kaka-sensei, I know you're up there," he said suddenly, causing the Junin to jump down from the tree. He had a solemn look under his mask, and a frown was evident on his face. Naruto fumbled for something in his pouch, and pulled out a small bundle of papers. He handed it to Kakashi. "I resign from Team 7. I can't be around you guys anymore. I'm sick to death of forcing a smile whenever I shouldn't," he said, his voice filled with distaste. They knew now. Sasuke and Sakura now knew that their bonds with Naruto were shattered, along with Team 7. A pang of guilt invaded both of their minds. The pure anguish on their blonde teammate's face etched into their memory. He began to walk away, but in a last-ditch effort to save the team, they called out, "Naruto, wait, we can fix this. Just stay on the team." Sakura called out desperately. She knew it was a mistake to call off what remained of their friendship. She knew she would miss Naruto. He turned back, his gaze impassive. "Why would I want to be on a team with people I hate?" He snarled before turning away, leaving his beyond horrified team behind. The words cut deep into Sakura's heart, and she didn't even try to cover the tears. "I did this. I'm a fucking despicable person." 1,000 thoughts went through Sasuke's mind, and he became overwhelmed. He didn't know what happened between his two teammates, why Naruto was so heartbroken, why he would say he hated them. For once, Sasuke didn't know what to think as guilt clouded his senses. Kakashi sighed silently, glancing back and forth between his two remaining teammates and the blonde walking away. He had a feeling something like this was going to happen. It was only a matter of time before he blew up. "I just hope he makes the right decision." Every step he took, Naruto felt a small pit of regret build up within him. "I really shouldn't have snapped like that." But no, he thought he could handle it. Thought he could handle burying his emotions like a good little shinobi, grit his teeth, and force a grin while his former best friend and the love of his life were all lovey-dovey with each other, and acting like nothing was wrong. Sasuke's genjutsu proved that he had some serious unresolved issues. He was holding onto and repressing too much. That needed to be fixed. He slammed his apartment door behind him, cursing rapidly under his breath. He paced around his living room, his mind reeling. Naruto remembered when, and how, he brought the Uchiha back. After his assistance in killing Madara and Obito, and after realizing that they were the ones that caused the Uchiha's cycle of hatred and eventual downfall, Sasuke still wanted to kill Konoha's elders and top brass. The two male genin of Team 7 fought once more at the Valley of the End. Their exchanged fists allowed them to realize each other's ideals. Sasuke then knew that his brother was right all along. Naruto was no longer fighting to bring Sasuke home for Sakura. The fight took place a year after his encounter with the Pinkhead at the end of the Shinobi World War. The two hadn't spoken. Naruto was fighting to bring his friend back, nothing more, nothing less. After nearly collapsing of chakra exhaustion, the two finally, after 5 years, came to an understanding. Sasuke agreed to return to Konoha, but only thanks to a promise from Naruto that when he became Hokage, and he was going to become Hokage, he would deal with the elders personally. So the last Uchiha returned, and after some heavy coaxing from the Kyuubi Jinchuriki, he was set free, under a strict probationary period of 6 months. His pardon was granted under the excuse of temporary insanity, due to the combined effects of Itachi's genjutsu, Orochimaru's cursed seal, and overuse of the Mangekyo Sharingan. The two were fairly close, they trained, ate and hung out together. Their female teammate was overtaken by her hospital duties, however, and she wasn't able to spend as much time with them, which Naruto was more than fine with. He didn't want to see her. There was always that nagging voice in the back of his head that told him that he should be upset, should be angry with Sakura. But he understood quite well, he always had understood her. Hell, he'd almost had with girls before, just to alleviate some of the hurt of not having Sakura. So he buried his feelings towards the pink-haired Kunoichi and was happy. For a time, it was then, a few months ago, Sasuke decided it was high time to start reviving his clan. So he chose the one girl who still had a flame for him in her heart. When he heard of their engagement, the blonde sage fell into a deep depression. He had always counted on Sasuke never returning Sakura's affections to keep him going. What a mistake that was. The blonde stopped reminiscing and sat down on his couch. Tears fell down his cheeks once again. But they weren't tears of sadness or heartbreak. They were tears of anger. He was frustrated and pissed off. How could they do this to me? He yelled to no one in particular, fisting his hair. He then realized something. His last words to his teammates were true. He hated them. He had never felt such a distaste, such an despised feeling towards another human being. But they left him in the dust, just so they could go live happily. Sure, Naruto should be happy for them, and in a strange, fucked up way, he was. But for once, he felt like being selfish. Their happiness was at the cost of his own. He had never felt this way before. And sitting there, on his old sofa, emotions coursing through him, he came to another revelation. He liked the feeling of being angry. and that scared him. Naruto sighed deeply, his stress exhaled out of his body. He suddenly remembered his meeting with the Hokage, not 2 days before, and the offer she had made him. He glanced out the window. He could become a Tokubetsu Junin, and help teach a batch of stamina freaks how to use their chakra. He would have to stay in the village, where practically everything reminded him of his ex-teammates. Or he could be a faceless ANBU Black Ops soldier, an emotionless tool for the Hokage to use as she sees fit. He would be able to leave the village, most likely on long-term missions, engage countless enemies, and get a significant pay raise. A smile crept on his face. He had made his decision. Naruto knocked on the Hokage's door gently. A voice called him in, and he turned the knob. He walked in. Kakashi and Yamato were, somehow, already there. A slight smirk was on Tsunade's face. Her golden blonde hair shone in the morning sun that poured into the main window of the office. "So, I guess you came to a decision?" she asked, earning a stiff nod from the blonde. He walked over, glancing at the 2 folders she had laid out. He picked up the one on the right. "ANBU," he stated simply. Kakashi and Yamato tensed, and Tsunade's face grew serious. "Are you positive? This is the most important choice in your entire life. Once you're in for good. At least until your probationary period is over," she said. His eyes became determined. "For sure," he said. With the approval of his Hokage, Naruto opened the folder and began filling out the forms. A half hour and an aching wrist later, he was done. "Take off your jacket. I'm going to give you the tattoo that marks you as one of our elite," Tsunade said, and he complied. He pulled up a chair and sat down next to her as she pulled out a small scroll. After reading through it a couple of times, she lifted up the short sleeve that covered his right bicep, ran through a half-dozen hand seals, and pressed her palm onto his arm. He hissed a little when he felt the burn of the ANBU symbol being engraved onto his skin, but said nothing. "There, you're a member of Konoha's best and brightest. Naruto, from here on out, you're to be secretive, stealthy, silent. I know that contradicts with your loud and proud nature, but I know, these past few months, hell, these past years have really taught me that I can't be loud and proud anymore, and that emotions aren't things for the battlefield. Don't worry, I'm very serious about this," he interrupted, his face determined and unyielding. The 3 elder shinobi allowed themselves to smirk, an image of a 12 and 16-year-old Kyuubi container running through their minds. Naruto had changed, but for better or for worse, they couldn't tell. "You begin training with us tomorrow, Naruto. Unlike what most people believe, we aren't just special forces. We are the forces. The regular shinobi get missions that are high profile and come with large profits for the village. They allow us to execute our strength and promote our village in order to get more missions." Yamato started. He was leaning on the wall, his arms crossed. "But then there's the ANBU. We're the ones that do the dirty work. And you will get dirty. You will kill, you will torture, you will live and breathe the mission. Everything we do is under direct orders from Hokage-sama. We do the things that directly benefit the village and that alone." "Kill?" Naruto asked, a little unnerved at the idea of ending another's life. They nodded. "Of course. ANBU isn't sunshine and lollipops, Naruto. It's something you'll have to deal with and overcome on your own. Like we said, you're in for good," Kakashi stated. Tsunade then pulled out a scroll and bit her thumb to draw some blood. She swiped the liquid across the seal on the object, and it popped open with a plume of smoke. Naruto walked over, and his eyes gleamed with a strange sort of happiness when he saw what the scroll contained. A standard ANBU uniform was there. It contained a pair of knee-high shinobi boots that had cleats on the soles of them for rough terrain, a few pairs of pitch black, loose-fitting shinobi pants, a few sleeveless turtleneck shirts and a gray armored vest. Also, there were a pair of fingerless, plated gloves, much like Kakashi's, and silver forearm bracers. Tsunade then pulled out a large, gray cloak and a rather magnificently crafted sword. Its hilt was black with stylized orange stripes, it lacked a crossguard and was relatively straight. A small ruby was embedded at the bottom of the grip, and it sparkled slightly in the light. "Wow," he said, taking the blade from Tsunade's hands and ripping it from its sheath. It was flawless, stainless steel and sturdy. "I had a hunch you were going to choose ANBU, and had this made for you. Treat it well." Naruto suddenly remembered something. Don't ANBU members wear masks?" he asked. Tsunade then pulled out a featureless, smooth white ceramic mask. All ANBU inductees don't get an animal mask until they complete training. He bowed in gratitude, almost shocking his superiors with his manners. Thank you, Hokage-sama, he said, barely containing his smile. Take your stuff and get out of here, Brad. You start training tomorrow. You're not a cute little genin anymore. You are a shadow of Konoha, a true shinobi. He bowed once more, giving a nod to his new team members, and left swiftly. He had to stop at his home to drop off his stuff, and he was deserving of a little celebration with a certain blonde kunoichi. The blondes rolled off of each other, panting heavily, the pleasure of their releases slowly fading from their bodies. Wow, Ino said breathlessly. Naruto chuckled lightly as he regained his breath. They stared at the ceiling as they came off of their high. So, I talked to Sakura and Sasuke yesterday. Naruto started, and he felt Ino turn to look at him. He glanced at her and saw her expression was that of shock and worry. How did it go? She asked slowly, a frown on her face, her icy blue eyes staring deep into his own cerulean. He sighed. I sort of lost my shit, screamed at them and said I hated them. He admitted, and to his surprise, she smiled. That's a good thing. It means you're already moving on, sort of. He made a noise of agreement and shifted his gaze back up to the ceiling. I think I meant it too. After everything they've put me through, I just hate them so much it's almost consuming. It's more anger than sadness now whenever I think of them. Ino felt her heart swell in happiness. She had grown to care a great deal for Naruto. The fact that he was showing signs of finally moving on from Sakura meant that he was getting closer to finally being happy. You know, I heard that Shika and Temari are fighting a lot lately. They barely see each other, but when they do, apparently things get nasty. Naruto suddenly commented, smirking. Ino frowned and her eyes glinted. That whore can have him. Shika broke my heart. I don't really care what happens to him now. I still care for him, but now. He nodded in understanding. Hinata's been asking about you. I feel really guilty. I mean, she adores you. You could be with her, you know. Naruto shook his head. I've thought of that before. But I don't want to give her a part of my heart when most of it is still with her. He said in disgust. Hinata is a nice girl, and I do love her. Just, not like that. Besides, there are other people who are more deserving of her affections than me. You mean Kiba? She laughed suddenly. Dog breath is actually capable of love? We all are, Ino. I can sympathize with Kiba though. I almost feel bad, but at least Hinata doesn't hit him for every idiotic thing he does. Naruto said, rolling his eyes. Ino giggled slightly. He had placed a small genjutsu penge combo on his bicep so the tattoo was invisible, and as she lightly traced it with her finger, he wasn't worried. He suddenly felt sad. His ANBU training was going to take up almost all of his time, and if what he heard about the training was true, he would be too exhausted at the end of the day for any personal things. He turned to face her once again. Listen, Ino, I'm going to be training extensively for the next few months, possibly even a year. I don't want you to wait around for me. I won't have any personal time to myself, so we're rarely going to see each other anymore. She pouted. Are you breaking up with me? She asked in feigned hurt. He caught on and smirked slightly. It's not you, it's me, sweet Ino-chan. She pecked his lips, and a sly grin slid onto her well-sculpted face as she flipped him over to straddle his waist. One more time, for the road? Sakura Uchiha walked down the main market road in Konoha, deep in thought. The conversation with Naruto a day earlier unnerved her and made her see reality. She had questions. If Naruto was in love with her like he said he was, why was he with Ino? Why was Ino, who last she heard was smitten with Shikamaru, buddies with Naruto? So the pinkhead decided to head over to her best friend's place of business. She arrived at the Yamanaka flower shop and glanced inside. Sure enough, a beautiful blonde woman was inside, chewing a piece of gum absently as she flipped through a magazine. The pinkhead entered. The door chimed in a familiar tune, and Ino looked up. Sakura, what's up? She asked as the medic Nin walked over. Just came by to chat. How's it going, Ino? She said nervously, fidgeting slightly. The blonde raised a brow, but didn't bother pushing it. It's been good. I'm a little sad and disappointed, but life is all right, I guess. She said, running a hand through her hair. Sad? Sakura questioned. Ino huffed. Me and Naruto broke up, she said awkwardly. Explaining this to the girl your ex-boyfriend is in love with was a strange situation. Ino gauged her longtime friend and rival's reaction. Her expression changed from shock to anger to relief. Why did that happen? He said he was going to be doing a lot of training for a while. We wouldn't have any time to spend together, so he didn't want me waiting around for him. I see. I've been meaning to ask you, why did you get with Naruto? Sakura asked. Ino merely shrugged. Friends with benefits in all reality. He asked me out on a date, it was surprisingly fun, and things just happened. It was nice while it lasted, but was fantastic, she said, smirking evilly at Sakura's flustered expression. Pig, don't talk about things like that. He's my teammate, you know. Yeah, it hardly seems like that, though. Ino muttered under her breath, but Sakura heard. What was that? I said it hardly seems like you guys are playing on the same team. What do you mean by that? Sakura, hun, you don't even realize what you did to him, did you? The pink head froze. There was no way Ino knew about that. Did Naruto tell her? He wouldn't, would he? You broke him, forehead. Broke him in ways I can't even begin to imagine. Everyone knew he had a thing for you, but the kid loved you. What you did to him? Calling out Sasuke-kun's name during that. I don't even want to think about what he truly feels. Sakura was shaking now. Ino's words struck a chord in her heart. She had thought Naruto was hurt by it, but he bounced back from it like he always did. She now knew that was a selfish and ignorant thing to believe. She had to pull up a stool and sit down so her legs wouldn't give out. Did he say anything else about me? He said he hated you and Sasuke. I can tell he's confused. He still loves you, I think, but the jealousy and anger is overwhelming him. Sakura sniffled. She absolutely loathed causing Naruto any pain, but that's all she seemed to ever do. Ino grasped her hands gently, trying to comfort her. Forehead, you have to remember, Naruto has had a tough life, and he's lived it all with smiles and happiness. He's never truly been selfish, and now that it isn't an option to not think about himself, he's going through a rough experience. Ino, what have I done? All I can do is hurt Naruto, and now look what I've done. I love Sasuke-kun, and because of that, I've hurt him so much. Do you truly love him? Sakura froze, her eyes wide. No one had ever questioned her feelings before. A slight feeling of doubt sprung up in the back of her mind, but she nodded her head. Of course I do. It's just, I've always been guilty about being mean to Naruto as a kid, and ever since then, ever since I've started being nice and trying to make amends for all of that, all I seem to do is just cause him more pain. Ino wasn't entirely convinced. After everything Sasuke had done to Sakura, the Yamanaka had a hard time believing that she still loved him unconditionally. But she decided to let the matter drop. Naruto is a very forgiving person, Sakura. Just give him some time. You should know that he doesn't hold grudges for long. Though, I think this may be a serious thing. Also, I suggest telling Sasuke about you and Naruto. Sakura paled, and even more guilt began to build up. I know. I don't know how he's going to react, though. Ino gave her friend a comforting hug, then pulled back. Go home, take a shower, and fix your problems, forehead. God only knows you need to do just that. Sakura was sitting at her kitchen table, drumming her fingers rapidly on the wood. She had fucked up, big time. She could clearly see that now. She felt so bad, so horrible because of the way she had treated Naruto. She didn't know what to do with herself. Her conversation with Ino only cemented the fact. She was married to the Sasuke Uchiha. She should be happy. So why was she so upset? Because Naruto is upset, her inner sounded. We care for him more than we realize. Sasuke walked in, rousing her from her musings, and went straight for the coffee maker. She chose to completely ignore what the inner version of herself just said, and she watched her husband's bag nervously, chewing her bottom lip. The guilt of lying to Sasuke was slowly eating away at her. A pressure was building up in her chest. She had to relieve it. She had to tell him. It was becoming too much. She opened her mouth to say something, but the raven-haired Uchiha beat her to the chase. So, Sakura, what did Naruto mean yesterday? What happened between you two? He asked, setting down his mug of coffee. He noticed her tense expression and her regret-filled face. She exhaled her stress and looked him dead in the eyes. We slept together, she said quickly. He heard the words and felt like the wind was knocked out of his lungs. "You what?" he exclaimed, his eyes uncharacteristically wide. He couldn't fathom what she had just said. 2 years ago, after the war, we slept together. I lied about you being my first. I'm sorry, she said, not only to Sasuke but to Naruto wherever he was. She heard Sasuke sigh loudly. You slept with the Dobi? Why? He asked carefully. He could tell she was beating herself up over it or something about it. I don't know, she whispered, palming her face with her hands. That fucking bastard. Sasuke growled. She looked up to see him shaking in anger. He used you and gets angry about it. Who does he think he is? He yelled in anger. Sakura paled at what he was getting at. No, Sasuke-kun, you don't get it. She started, but he was already heading to the door. I'm going to kill him, he snarled before rushing out of the door. Naruto walked to his door, frowning. Someone was banging hard on it. He walked up to the thing, pulling the shirt on over his head and opened it. His eyes narrowed when he saw an angry Sasuke and a worried Sakura behind him. What? He spat. He was suddenly forced into the wall. Sasuke-kun, Sakura yelled in shock. Naruto glared even more at his ex-best friend. What the fuck do you want, Sasuke? He asked coldly. He was previously enjoying a nice cup of ramen. This intrusion put a stop to his good mood. You fucked her? He replied, his voice icy. Naruto's eyes widened slightly, before they narrowed, his brows furrowed. Take your fucking hands off me. He snarled. Did you fuck her? Sasuke pressed on, applying more pressure with his arm to Naruto's neck. The blonde's fingers twitched. I swear to fucking God, Sasuke, if you don't let me go, I won't hesitate to rip your throat out. Naruto said darkly, his voice level yet it reinforced the threat. The Uchiha released him, which proved to be a mistake. In an instant, Naruto had him pinned to the ground, his knee in Sasuke's back and arms. Listen to me. You stay the fuck away from me. I never want to see you again. To answer your question, yes, we slept together. But that doesn't matter, he stated, not bothering to glance at the pink-haired woman. He exhaled sharply when Sasuke finally stopped struggling. If it makes you feel any better, she called your name. Now get the fuck out of my sight, he said, picking up Sasuke and literally throwing him out the door. Sasuke landed on his feet, his face that of shock. She called, my name? He was amazed at how much Sakura liked him and was quite surprised by it, but on the other hand, he felt horrible. He couldn't even imagine what Naruto must have felt like, given the knowledge that he loved her. Without another word, Sasuke left, leaving a saddened Sakura and scowling Naruto behind. He spared a small sideways glance at Sakura, but said nothing as he closed his door. His back hit the wall as he slid down it. He combed a hand through his hair. Well, this is just fucking wonderful, he muttered. Naruto didn't know how long he was sitting there for. He didn't like how easy it was for them to rile him up. He was cut off from his musings by a light knock on his door. He glanced at the clock on his wall. He was shocked to see an hour had passed. He pulled himself up and opened his door. He sighed deeply when he caught the familiar head of pink hair in his gaze. What the hell do you want, Uchiha-san? He asked bitterly, not feeling like yelling anymore. She flinched at his lack of the chan suffix. It felt wrong, along with the formality of the name. I want to talk. May I come in, please? She asked softly. He scratched his cheek and glared at her. He was exhausted from arguing. Naruto was never a hateful person at all. But his ex-teammates made his blood boil. He reluctantly let her into his apartment, closing the door quietly behind her as they walked into his living room. It was a mess. His fit of depression and anger caused him to not really care for his home's cleanliness. The two sat down on his sofa and looked at each other. What did you want to talk about? He asked calmly. She noticed his clenched fists and frowned. I wanted to say I'm sorry. She started. He exhaled loudly and leaned back. You've already apologized multiple times. It doesn't change anything. No, for everything, Naruto, including that night. I understand. You understand? You understand what you did to me? Sakura, you fucking ruined me. Imagine, the person you've loved and sacrificed so much for, calling out another's name while you're together. Now, I understand that you had needs. You used me, I get that, but that didn't mean you had to fuck me and pretend I was Sasuke. Naruto, you have it all wrong. I didn't pretend you were Sasuke at all. I thought of you, and only you. I gave you my first time, damn it. She yelled, getting angry. In case you've forgotten, that was my first time, too. Hell, I hadn't even kissed a girl before that night. So don't give me that shit. He snarled. Her eyes widened. If you didn't pretend I was Sasuke, then why? Why? He exclaimed, his eyes welling up. He was so frustrated, so completely upset, that he didn't know what to do with himself. That night, I don't know why we slept together. Maybe it was because you were hurt, and I was worried. I didn't even think. That's why Sasuke-kun's name slipped out. It was an accident. I didn't mean anything by it. He scoffed. That doesn't change that it happened. She reached over for his hand to try to comfort him, but he flinched. Don't touch me. She nodded and bit her bottom lip. She then looked at him. I don't really think that night was a mistake. He grumbled. Well, I think it was. How can you not believe it was a mistake? It happened for no reason. You had no feelings for me. You've made that very, very clear over the years. And I'm done with it. With you, with Sasuke, with Team 7. In truth, I was never happy with that team. Maybe in the beginning, but it was always the same shit. He started, his anger slightly rising. And I meant what I said yesterday. I hate you. I despise you both so fucking much I can barely stand to be in the same room as you. So don't come here and say you're sorry just because you feel a little guilty. You should feel guilty. Her words got caught in her throat as she tried to hold back a sob. His words stung. She couldn't comprehend why his hatred hurt her heart so much and made her feel like throwing up. He then laughed mirthlessly, his blue eyes reflecting only scorn and rage. Why do you even care? You have your precious Uchiha. I made it clear yesterday I want nothing to do with you too. So why? He questioned. Because I do care. Naruto, you're a precious person to me. I don't enjoy hurting you, but that's all I ever do. She yelled, standing up. Tears were cascading down her cheeks. Some part of him wanted to comfort her, wanted to hold her, and tell her it was all right. Those thoughts were promptly subdued and replaced. Get out. You say you care. You say you don't like hurting me, but I don't want to hear it. I'm saying this now. I'm done with you, with Sasuke, with everything to fucking do with you too. Leave, he said as calmly as he could. He winced slightly at how hurt her expression was. She nodded dully and solemnly walked out of his apartment. He heard the door close quietly, and he let out a huge groan. He had to put this all behind him, Team 7, his dwindling feelings for Sakura, and his hatred for the two. He was in ANBU now. He had begun a new chapter in his life. One that didn't involve pink-haired girls or arrogant Uchihas. He was getting closer to completing his remaining dream of becoming Hokage. With that thought, he buried all of his emotions. The love, the anger, the jealousy. From that day, Naruto was never the same. That's all for now. If you enjoyed, then please like, share and do comments.